When I started Jiu-Jitsu, just by being consistent and pretty obsessed, I would say like, given the coaching I had, I progressed pretty quickly. I went from white to blue in 2.5 years, which is not that fast really, but I was pretty good at blue belt. Like by the time I got promoted, I started winning at blue belt, which was good. And then blue to purple took me 4 years, purple to brown took me 3.5, and brown to black took me another 2. Honestly, like when I'm hanging out with these people who are like freak prodigies, you know, whether, you know, at Roka or in my travels, you know, with like the Bali camp, and you meet all these amazing grapplers and they've trained for like basically 20 minutes and they already give me insane problems. I'm like, this is bullshit. But I remember like when I was coming up, literally for the first, I believe like 7.5 years or something about this, like end of purple, I was just like, the coaching I was getting was just awful. So I feel like this struggle of like having shit instruction basically kind of made me really appreciate working with guys like Lachlan or John in Texas and all the Roka guys obviously, because like when you find somebody that really does know their shit and you've had the road that I've had, it makes you like lock in so much more. Although yes, it was like hard to make good progress, now because of the road I've been on, I feel like I get to absorb it even more. In terms of training partners in Australia, it's always really hard, honestly. There's not a lot of like very big guys who are also really technical, in my side of town at least. So it's kind of rare, but I feel like because of the game I play, I find that I actually get so much out of working with guys like Lockie and Levi, not because they're like physically matching me or anything like this, but because when I train Jiu-Jitsu, I don't really roll to try to win a lot of the time. It's kind of inconsequential. I try to do Jiu-Jitsu, you know? And so what ends up happening is I roll with people who are just really big or really strong or athletic at my weight class, and I've just spent the last like, you know, 3 months or whatever trying to do Jiu-Jitsu against guys who really, really know their shit. And that ends up just like translating really well and helps me get the results I feel like I've gotten, you know what I mean? Obviously, you know, I feel like a big catalyst for me getting successful internationally was like working with John and the Roka crew, being able to train with like Gordon or Nicholas or Luke or Dan, like these guys who are like insanely physical and really, really high level, has really like helped elevate my game to another step. In terms of like overall, it's so hard to get good partners, but when I get them, I really feel like I get the most out of them. So I'm really blessed, honestly. I have no complaints.
Don't let him win. Don't let him. Push him over. Push him over. Too slow. Switch around. Alex, where are you going, buddy? Get back on the line. Alex, come here. What are you doing?
Difficulties I've faced, apart from financial, I guess, is like not knowing about having Asperger's until fairly late in life. It led to me making some like dumb choices and like missing a lot of important things in social cues and stuff, which led me to some shitty situations. But outside of that, like a big hurdle I've had really is like this lack of self-confidence. It took a lot for me to be able to be a person who believes that I can do this, that I can, you know, hang with the best in the world, that I can really make a name for myself on a global stage, because, you know, when I was very young, I didn't really have the faith. I didn't think that I could, you know. And when I was young, it was like, Jiu-Jitsu was a blessing in one sense, in that like it helped me to quieten this voice, but it also kind of meant that I never really was able to fully go deep in myself and really reflect on, you know, my value as a person and, you know, the path that I deserve to try to pursue, just because, you know, of the work that I do and all these types of things. So those have been my main struggles, honestly. You know, like money aside, even aside from money, you know, and financial difficulty, like that is the main plight, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like this transcends jiu-jitsu to a lot of people. Is like, honestly, like it takes a lot for a young man to believe they can do it. And, you know, so far so good. I'm kind of proof that you can if you really believe. If you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to believe that you can accomplish something special, you just might.
All eyes on me. Roll up in the club and shit. All eyes on me. All eyes on me.
So jiu-jitsu started to become my life probably when I was around like a high level purple belt at Extreme. At that time, I was doing a lot of MMA, and you know, I ended up turning pro when I was 19. I had a gap year from school and did this. And then, yeah, I had 3 pro fights in my gap year, and I ended up facing the #1 guy in Asia, Oceania, and unfortunately, I got fucked up. But my first 2 fights I won by submission quite convincingly, and had a late opponent change.
Oh, big, oh, huge right hands. Sebastian's got to move. Sebastian's got to move.
His other arm through, but Sebastian did a good job of backing out.
I'd get up if I was Sebastian, yeah. Get up and go, oh, head kick, and right hand, and knees.
On my 3rd fight, and like Rob Wilkinson was the only guy to step in and have a match with me. And I remember in this match, it was really funny. I had this vision. I was like, when I shaped up with him in the weigh-ins, I was like, oh bro, this guy just has this big chin that sticks out so much. I can definitely get my shin under that. And in my head, I'm like convinced I'm gonna go Plata this guy. And I remember like grabbing my leg and pulling it up, and he's getting ready to set the strangle. And I remember he postured out and just fucking elbowed the shit out of my face, split my head open. And then he stood up, and I was like, wait, but we're doing jiu-jitsu, come back. And then I had to stand up, and I took the worst double leg of my life, and then got guillotined in front of my friends. So, but that was one of the main matches where I was like, huh, okay. To do MMA, I have to, like, if I'm gonna do it seriously, I have to at least beat this guy, you know what I mean? Like this level of opponent. And I thought about the work that would have to go in to become that level of person. And yeah, like, I just kind of like started to think about it more and more, and kind of reflected on the danger in some sense of doing MMA, and also the cost, like not just essentially financially, because you get like, you know, maybe $800 to fight in a cage, right? It's great value for money for a 9-week training camp. But like the cost of like what it can do to your mind, you know? And like if you look at like MMA athletes in their later years, some of them are really fucked up, and that's really scary. And given I was a coach at the time, I was kind of like, huh, I really need my brain to teach jiu-jitsu. In my 2nd semester of uni, I decided to take an MMA fight and cut a bunch of weight. I ended up like failing 2 of my subjects that semester because I spent just all my time obsessed with getting ready for this fight. After that fight, I realized that I was just doing it for fun. And it occurred to me that like, if you're doing MMA because you want to be a world champion, and you want to pursue this for real, then fantastic, right? And then anything you face in this challenge will be worth it, because that's what you're setting out to do. If you're doing MMA because it's a bit of fun, you have to be prepared to understand like, okay, I'm doing this bit of fun, and I'm doing it in spite of probably ruining my brain when I'm older. And to me, that just wasn't worth it. And I was already like quite good at jiu-jitsu, so I was like, well, I may as well pursue this more seriously. And that's kind of what led me to start coaching in jiu-jitsu way more, and kind of putting my eggs in the jiu-jitsu basket, and kind of leaving like striking and these sorts of things behind me. Yeah, I kind of had a pivotal shift when I had a falling out basically at one of the academies I was at. Ended up quitting jiu-jitsu for a while, and yeah, after I came back, that's kind of when I knew I was going to be way more serious about pursuing jiu-jitsu. And yeah, that's kind of what a really big moment, I guess, that like shaped how the rest of my career would play out. After I had a falling out with this team that I was with, it was a bit of a shit show, and it was a catalyst for me learning about my Asperger's and all this sort of stuff. But at the time, basically, one of the guys who ran the business was like, you need to stop jiu-jitsu, you need to fucking expand your horizons, realize there's more to life than jiu-jitsu. and I was a wreck because I lost my team, which to me was everything. When that happened, it was like I made some mistakes for sure, and when that happened, I ended up quitting jiu-jitsu. Basically, I was like, all right, fine, this guy's right. I better just get a normal job, pretty much. And I'd already been a coach for a lot of years, and one of my private students, basically at the time, Fiona, she had a bookkeeping business, and so I approached Fiona. I was like, oh, Fee, would it be okay if I did some work for you? Like, is this possible? Because I know she works from home and she can work remote and all these sort of things. And she was pretty much like, yeah, I'll give you a job if you come and coach MMA and leg locks one night at this other gym that she was a part of, right? And so I was like, okay, sure, I guess I can do this. And so I started doing bookkeeping, and I was like, not good. I was terrible, honestly. And basically when I went across to work with Fee, she was like, okay, but if you're going to be a coach, you have to be at least developing your skills on some level. So if there was any gym in the state that you would want to train at to get better, where would it be? And I was like, oh, probably Absolute MMA in St Kilda. And so she's like, all right, fine. And so she like paid for my membership so that I wouldn't have any, like my then fiance wouldn't have anything to say about it, basically. So she like paid for my membership. She sent me down there and, you know, helped me to find my passion again for jiu-jitsu, because when I went there, obviously training with like really phenomenal grapplers, and like Lockie, Craig was there at the time, Ben Hodgkinson, and a bunch of other like straight up murderers, I was like, wow, there's so much more to learn in jiu-jitsu, and it really like reignited my passion.
Yeah, training starts at around 10 in St Kilda, so it's like 8:30 now, so we should get there on time, unless there's been some horrid accident, which obviously is bad, right? Yeah, so it should be there pretty easily on time, and then train from 10 till around noon, or something thereabouts, and yeah, then shower and try not to die on my drive back home. I've got this. That would be okay.
Quite flexible actually, so he moved very well, very technical. You know, a lot of the figure guys tend to sort of pass on their knees and be very tight, but he was willing to move around, invert, and I think he was working on the Berimbolo game at the time, so playing like a big guy using a small man's game, which to me sort of shows a lot of potential in the heavyweight world. Generally, for these types of people that are very methodical, progress is very steady, and I find that like over a long time they just continue to improve, and that's what I've seen with Dan. You know, I've seen him working very hard. I'm going to say the last 7 or 8 years since he's been training with us. It might not be exactly accurate, but Dan's very methodical in his training. I think if you ask him from any position, if you ask him what he's doing, he can give you a full system about how he's approaching it. So my experience is people who approach jiu-jitsu like that have very steady, good progress, but very steady, and it keeps going. They tend to, you know, like basically, you know, given his size and weight division, I expect him still. He hasn't reached his peak yet. I think he's continuing to improve, and with his style, I expect over the next few years he's going to improve a lot more, and he's already at the level of making ADCC. So it's going to be interesting to see how high he should go.
Training Absolute honestly gave me a bit of a second chance. So when I came here, it was I came here in a really bit of a tricky time in my life, and found some amazing training partners. Gave me a lot of opportunity to learn from Lockie and learn from a good athlete and good competitor and all this sort of things. But before that, like the coaching I received was like so bad, basically. So to come here and be in a room full of absolute killers really elevated my game and basically helped me to transform my career from just a guy who kind of competes at a state level, you know, to a guy who's able to travel around the world. It's been pretty special. So at the last place I trained before coming here, I was pretty much like fairly decisively one of the best in the room, if not the best, especially being big. I had not that many hard rounds. I actually got, like, it was funny, I used to do jiu-jitsu every day, and I was literally getting fat from doing jiu-jitsu because I was just like relaxed and playing nice and doing this nice jiu-jitsu, not really getting pushed much. So I was really gaining heaps of weight. It was really funny. But then coming here showed me there's still plenty to learn, and it's really, you know, like working with much higher level and experience of athletes. You know, the difference between like hobbyist jiu-jitsu practitioners and competitors is really, really big. And so when you start going against more serious competitors, getting those doors open for me, like just in the terms of like what's possible with jiu-jitsu, in terms of like, you know, different guards, different styles of play, different attacks, really kind of shaped the trajectory of my career. Like when I was training here, I was already like decent at things like leg locks, for example. And then right before ADCC in 2019, where Lockie had like a killer breakout performance, we spent a bunch of time working on 50-50, and I really kind of jumped into that with him. And every now and then, like, we'd have a new innovation kind of in the room that we all kind of like invested in and built towards. And I would kind of jump on those trains and absorb all the information we can. So just working with other like-minded individuals really helped to elevate my game, and that's something I didn't really have before. It was really just me fucking around and trying stuff I saw on YouTube, compared to now where I've got like actual pretty good direction, you know?
I have Fiona to thank. So all these years later, after many trials and tribulations, now Fiona's my wife. So it's a happy ending for that story for sure. So now she's stuck with me.
So Fee actually had a massive influence. So before I started being pushed by Fee in my career, basically, I only ever really competed in the state. Like I pretty much mostly did grappling industries. You know, coming from a poor upbringing, I was kind of like, well, it's like risky to spend a bunch of money to travel into state, and you know, maybe it all goes terribly wrong or whatever the case may be. But by Fee pushing me to compete interstate and then eventually internationally, when I first went to ADCC trials and you know, all this sort of thing, like a lot of the time it was like because of Fee pushing me to go and compete. Even for my first time going to Worlds in 2017. It's actually a funny story. I told Fee that I was like looking at maybe going and competing, and she actually paid for my flights to go to Las Vegas, like out of her own pocket basically, to help me get over there and compete. So literally from the very beginning, Fee's been helping me all the time. And at this time, when Fee did this, like it was unthinkable to me that somebody would give me like thousands of dollars to go and compete internationally. And I was literally like, who the fuck is this lady? Like before we were like really good friends, I was literally like, I don't understand what is happening. Like, is this like drug money? Like I was literally like blown away. I was like, how is this even possible? No, I mean, I accepted, and you know, I went out and I got smashed. But it was a massive learning opportunity that year, right? And over time, you know, putting myself out there more and more, like literally, like in that respect, like getting me international and interstate even, played a massive factor in the growth of my career. And then even more so to that, even recently, because I got bashed for a third time by Josh Saunders. Fuck you, Josh. No, he's all right. But because of this, Fee was pretty much like, as soon as I lost that match, she was like, right, that's it. I'm sending you to Texas to go learn and train from John. And so Fee, again, out of her own bloody pocket, because I was literally like, oh, we don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. She's like, fuck your money. I'm going to pay for it. And so she paid for my flights and accommodation to Texas for my first trip, made me go train with John. And so in terms of how I teach, it kind of depends on if it's in a classroom setting or if it's a private lesson. But generally, in a classroom setting, I'll run like a 5-minute flow roll to get the body warm up a little bit, kind of move through some positions. Then I would teach between like maybe 3 to 6 or 7 techniques, depending on the class. this hip and knee position is among the most important guard passing positions in the sport, okay? Yeah. When I win this structure, I put her in a position where I'm threatening to dominate the inside hip, okay? So at any point here, like her whole game is gonna be recover in one of a couple of ways, okay? So you know what's called a high leg or a high pummel, which is where she circles this foot onto my shoulder, and then uses this to push my hand away, and then she has her feet back in front, she can square herself back up. The other main way she can try to retain is to bring this leg to the outside, okay? Whether it's like initially through my legs to try and gain any kind of connection inside the half guard or a split squat, it's gonna be an okay option, okay? But ideally, she really wants to try to fight to this outside hip to square me up here, okay? So when this happens, I have to be like cognizant of like looking at the idea of like switching sides or doing a really good job of monitoring that in the first place?
Fee sent me out to Texas to learn from John, and that was obviously huge because I got exposed to like the very pinnacle of coaching in jiu-jitsu. Like Lachlan's fantastic, obviously, but there's a reason that like there are so many amazing people who've come out of John's tutelage, and I got to experience that firsthand. And I was there for a month, and then shortly after I came back from the Texas trip was when I went to AIGA. And AIGA was a massive turning point for my career. After I had a good performance in the first show, I ended up getting picked up by Leone as a sponsored athlete, and here we are, you know. But yeah, so like being able to work with Leone has helped me to like really close the gap, I feel, internationally. It's allowed me to do a bunch of training camps at Roca, and you know, my first few times going to Roca, I would just get smashed. But every now and then I would have like a good moment against like some of the really good guys there. Obviously they would normally just bash me, but anytime you have like anything remotely offensive that actually works against those guys, you're like, oh my God, like I'm right there. Like we're close for sure. You know what I mean? And I got that level of confidence really helped me going into the Bangkok trials, where I ended up winning and punching my ticket and eventually going to ADCC. And that was kind of like, has been the defining tale of my jiu-jitsu career in a sense, like this overcoming of failing at like 3 ADCC trials and really investing in myself all these times. Unfortunately in the third trials, I like really badly injured my rib, literally in the last minute of sparring in my camp, which I couldn't overcome. But yeah, so finally in the 4th attempt, I managed to punch my ticket and accomplish my goal that I set out to accomplish for like, you know, 5 years. You know, I had this vision of this, you know, punching my ticket and getting to ADCC, and literally on the day I won trials, I knew like there was not a soul that could convince me that I was not going to win that day, and it was a pretty special moment. And then further, like the confidence I gained from working with those guys day in, day out when I was at Roca, and like I said, like these guys are literally the very best in the world. And John talked about confidence a lot to me, because in the ADCC camp going in, I was like getting destroyed, obviously again. And when you're preparing for ADCC trials, which is like Asia, Oceania, there's a level to which you're like, okay, this is not the hardest trials in the world. So then, you know, if you get bashed by those guys, it won't matter, you know, because ultimately they're the very best. Obviously, if you have good moments with the best guys in the world, and then you go into ADCC trials in, you know, Bangkok, probably you can still do really well. And so that kind of led me to my like heightened confidence for trials, and helped me really significantly to stay calm, stay relaxed, and get the win. So going to ADCC was a really interesting experience. Obviously, it's the pinnacle of the sport, and so going in, like, you know it's going to be the hardest battle you can face. I was really hoping to get like a better seed maybe, but unfortunately it wasn't the case. Ended up facing Kainan Duarte, who went on to win double gold and have an amazing performance. I was still pleased though, like I didn't get completely annihilated. Like it was very interesting, my match with Kainan, to feel his pressure and kind of understand his way of doing jiu-jitsu just by having those minutes on the mat with him. So I took away a lot of like technical stuff, but also it was really special to be able to take in that whole experience of like fighting in front of all these thousands of people, and like it was a culmination of all this work I put in. Like obviously, you know, going in, it's going to be really hard to beat somebody like a Kainan, but I just tried to focus on being present and enjoying the process and understanding and having faith that like I said earlier, anybody can win, you know. And yeah, probably a really special experience, and in general, it was my first AIGA. I again had this sublime confidence going in. I fully believed 100% in myself on that day. Like I had no doubt at all that I was going to win. And I remember in my first match against the Universal guy, I've lost his name. He's like a very, very good Russian athlete. I remember going into this match and I was down by 2 points initially. And in my head, like I was literally like, haha, cool. This is going to be so cool when I come back from adversity and win anyway. Like I was unshakable, like not like, oh no, not 2 points, you know, the guy's going to stall on me or whatever. I was literally like, ah, it doesn't matter. I'm literally gonna win. It's all good. Like, I'd never experienced this level of confidence before. And it's just probably one of the first times that I was really fully in charge of my life. I feel like I got to like really shape my destiny when I was this level of confident. So.
Oh, and he's going to sit back on the inside heel.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, and getting a big grimace.
Submission win. 10 seconds remaining in the first round. And Daniel Schuardt of Leone gets the first win for him.
It's tricky because when you're in Jiu-Jitsu, you have to have a beginner's mind and be open to ideas and techniques to try and get better. But on game day, you have to be, I call it God mode. You know, you ever play Doom and you turn on the cheat code, God mode, you can't die. You have to have this level of like, nothing you can do can touch me. You know what I mean? When you go out and compete. And yeah, that day I unlocked God mode and it was really cool. So that was probably the other main moment for me. And not necessarily the like, obviously it was really good to have a sick performance and, you know, get picked up as a sponsor by Leone. But it was one of the first times where I was like, oh yeah, I'm the guy. So starting out with Leone made it like an unbelievable difference. I had a couple of sponsors before this, but it was mostly more like brand ambassadorship, you know, like they give you a couple of gis or something like this. To go from being like that to being treated like a professional, and you know, Leone like flies me around the world to do camps and, you know, training trips and compete internationally and, you know, help to elevate my brand with really cool things like this, right? And yeah, so it's completely reshaped the way I view myself as an athlete and what I can put together in terms of preparation. It's really honestly been instrumental in the growth of my career. I couldn't be more proud to represent.